Good afternoon. That thing I say every time now. Good afternoon, evening. It's Collin back, having slept in a bit today. Not much on my plans today. I also feel bad because I noticed that my screen recorder, which is Hypercam, it had a section for recording audio. And this entire time, I've been wearing a headset to record it with, and it was set to record with the internal microphone from my computer. And so this entire tutorial series probably doesn't sound that great. I switched it to the headset now, so it should sound much better after, 4 hours of listening. I apologize. I really do apologize. It'd be hard to go back in and just listen to myself and repeat myself for a couple of hours. But anyway, we have our Assassin's Creed character. We have him all rigged up. He can move around. I didn't show yesterday how well you can move the fingers, but you can actually move them pretty well. I was messing around with some more poses. So yeah, when you're rigging, you usually want to have it on the rotation widget and set to normals, so that they move along the angle that they're facing. They're not affected by the global axis, but just the axis of which way they're facing. So yeah, you can make a decent little fist here for him, which is nice since he's kind of a fighter. Anyway, so what we'll be doing today is getting ready to put him into an animation, a final result of what you can do with your character. And I haven't gotten to rigging these other people yet, but we are just going to start today on creating the world that he's going to be running around in. So when you save your project, you can go File, New, and reload up to Start File. I'm gonna go ahead and just save it as already. Call it something like Assassin's Creed World. And so then what we'll be doing is see if I'll make a plane and scale it up, probably fairly large. You can call this the ground. So then what I might do is go into edit mode on that plane, hit W and subdivide, and just kind of keep subdividing it until it gets about like that. It looks pretty dense. Just for visual sake, you don't have to do this, but I'm going to go into sculpt mode, and with this draw brush, see, yeah, that should do pretty good. I'll turn my screencast keys on for you. That'll also be good. I'm gonna tell the VAS to go away too. Just kind of give this a little terrain difference. Is it doing anything? Turn my strength up a bit, I guess. Yeah, it's doing something. Just, kind of adding a couple hills maybe. Can do maybe one large one off here. Not much, but something. Okie dokie. Go back to my object mode. I'm going to give this a smooth shader. So now we have this nice little ground here. Then I will add in Let's start with a building. I'll put the ground on another layer for now. Building. With graphic view. A building is pretty straightforward. It just depends on what you want the building to look like. So if I scale this along like Shift Z, what do I want the building to look like? I'll have it be kind of tall. Maybe do a loop here, slightly off center. Then one here, slightly off center. Take this row of faces, extrude it, Alt S. So now it has a little trim on it there. Roof. Just going to see, I'll extrude that top face up. Then I will scale it along the x-axis, about like that. And yeah, that'll do. We can move on to more complicated houses in a minute. Go to my vertex select, take this edge and do a bevel, about like that, so that I can take, let's see, how will it look if I take the vertices and move it? Yeah, it goes through them. So if I take that loop, scale it along the X, go about like that. Let's do that along the Y too. And then take my faces, take that loop, extrude, just let's do an Alt S, see how that looks. Okay. Scale it along the Shift Z. This kind of looks more like a China house. Huh. I'll take this row of edges, hit GG, bring them up. So now it looks like a house with a large roof. Scale that back in. What did I just hit? Oh, I'm looking at all the layers now. And sure, why not? Going to add in a plane again. Rotate it along the X 90 degrees. And let's pull it up front so that we can see it. Going to subdivide it about like that. Take the vertices, pull this one up about like that. Take the faces. Nah, let's do an edge loop down here. And then do one here. And one here. And then one up here. Take this one, 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 this one. Pretty much the whole outside ring here. Take those and extrude it out. And then just take these bottom ones and extrude it out slightly more. Got a nice little window thing here. Another thing that we could do is take these edges here. It's confusing how a selected edge for me is white. I need to fix that. So I'm selecting the wrong vertices here. I think I selected every wrong one. There we go. Now I'll bevel that. And then deselect that vertice. Then that one. And this one. That one. And extrude it out. Got a nice window now. I'm going to join it to the building. Control L to get that there. I'll bring this one up top like this. Bring it in. Do a Shift D. Bring it over there. Another thing that you could do right there is you could hit Alt D, and that will also copy it, but that, or at least that usually copies it. Alt D. Okay, maybe that's just an object mode thing. If you copy something in object mode with Alt D, it makes it so that when you change one, it'll change all the other ones that were copied using the Alt D function. Alrighty. Now these windows are floating again. Just put them right there. Shift D, go to my top view, hit period, RZ90, Shift D, enter RZ90, Shift D, RZ90, enter. And so now I've put windows all around the house. You can put one down at the bottom or make another window, which is what I might do. I'm going to start coloring this so I can actually see what I'm doing. Went to my materials, new. Let's say that the walls of the building, and we can try and add some textures on these. This might be a little bit easier to do with texturing. Let's call this bricks. Roof. Yeah, I'll do vertice, take my box selector, just take the top of the roof. Maybe that one too. And I'm going to give it like maybe an orange-ish roof. Alright, let's see. Call this one wood. Make these not shiny, because these are not shiny. Brown is just a dark orange. Assign that. Oh, this will be fun. In fact, I might actually just finish coloring this window and then reduplicate it. Don't you worry. Don't you worry about a thing. There's a triangle in there now, so it doesn't know how to loop select that. See if it'll know how to do this one. No, I was not holding the button 13 times, I was just holding it down. Come on. There we go. Make that wood. Another one, glass. We'll let that one be shiny and give it just a little bit of a blue. There we go. So I'm going to select one of that, one of this, 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 one of this. Control L, X, vertices. Grab this one, Control L, front view, Shift D, move it over to this side, so I moved along the X. Grab this one, Shift L, Z, 7 on the numpad, Shift D, enter RZ90, Shift D, enter RZ90, Shift D, enter RZ90. Quick and easy. It's looking a little bit better. Gonna go ahead and save. And let's see. Certainly needs a door, I know that. RX90. Bring it up front. Bring this up. Scale it along the X. Put it off center. Just to bug some of you. Bring that down to about the floor. Take the vertices up just a little bit. And do a loop about there. And one more down here. Going to take all three of them, extrude it out just a little bit, then take that one away, extrude this out, then take this one away and extrude that out. Now we have little steps up to the door. Can grab this here, extrude it, scale it down slightly, pull that down there, scale it down along the X a bit more, and extrude that inward. And then I'm going to duplicate that, scale it way down to just this tiny little square for a knob. I'm going to rotate it along the Y, say 45 degrees. Just put that down at the knob area. Extrude that out. Got a little door. Let's join it with this mesh. And give this the wood texture. That selected it really nicely. Wood. Let's make another one, call it stone. Make this like just kind of a dark gray. Select all these. Assign the stone. I'll give the doorknob a selfish texture. That thing is so tiny, but it deserves an entire texture. Knob. Yeah, that can be shiny. Gonna save again. How's it looking? My soda tastes great. And so there's a lot more that goes on to buildings. It really depends on how much effort you want to put into it. Gonna take one of these windows, duplicate it down here, scale it down, scale it along the x-axis. Take all of these here, to bring that down to make it a square, or something like it. And if I'm going to be duplicating this house around, there's many things that I could do. I could add some stuff out front, some little plants, could add some little... If I'm going to make them very dense, such as putting them almost roof to roof like this, you can see that they get a little space in between here, so you could put some plants back here, or maybe some boxes. If they were further apart, you could make a small yard for them here, and just things like that. It's up to you. So I think that I'm mostly going to keep them... Now I'll make them a little bit far apart, and then do some more like market-like buildings for the ones that are close together. So as far as a yard goes, I can't... Like at first I wanted to extrude this out just like this and put the yard right there, but because our land is not even, that could cause a little bit of problem. So I might just add the actual stuff. Oh, excuse me. I'm going to bring a cube up here, scale it down on the Z-axis, grab this face, bring that back about like this, give it a stone texture so you know what I'm making. Bring this down. Over here a little bit. Something about like that. Got a little bench now. I probably could have done better. I should have added a loop this way. In fact, I will. 2 loops this way, and then take those down. And let's see, I can go ahead and add a box or 2. Not that giant. Just some little crates sitting out back. Gonna rotate it a bit just to make it off center. I'm gonna take all of the faces, do a Control B for a bevel, and take all of these faces that aren't the bevel. Going to extrude it and just slightly scale them down. And then on the top, I will extrude that down about like this and duplicate that face in there. Maybe extrude that up just a tiny bit. Then rotate that a little bit more. Set it off to kind of the side, but still sitting on the box. There we go. It's pretty good. It looks about the right color right now, but we don't want that to have a brick texture in the end. So I'm going to say crate. Assign it this crate texture, make it kind of a lighter wood texture. Or a material, I don't know. I keep calling it a texture when I'm just doing materials. These are materials. Can duplicate that. Rotate this back. Delete this. Now we got some boxes out back. We could do like a little lamp thing on the side. Or like a... You know, it'd be really nice if I actually went in and looked at the Assassin's Creed stuff. I don't have the game though. Like I mentioned before, I wasn't as big of a fan of it as other people. I wanted it at one point really badly, but now that I can have it, I don't know. I've played a little bit of the first one, had some difficulty with it. People started to tell me that the first one was the hardest one to understand because they just said, look on your map and go find stuff, which is very true. That's exactly what it did. And as far as the storyline go, I even watched people play some of the other ones, just the story mode. And I couldn't really seem to follow it. Like, stuff was going on, he would attack people, he'd sit there with their dying breath, they'd tell him his life story, and somehow that meant something. He'd, like, take a feather from them or something, and I don't know, it just, like, somehow meant something, and you had to go tell other people about it. I was not good at understanding that game. The multiplayer was ridiculously fun. I enjoyed the multiplayer very much. But that's about as far as I could get. Da 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 da. Just making a little lamp here. I'll give this the same knob texture. Just a little lamp off to the side. Could probably get one of these outside the front door too. Did they have lamps, or did they have like little candle things? I noticed that the shape, or not the shape key, the screencast keys are not helping you very much in what degrees I'm typing in. I'm assuming that you understand that 90 degrees is a quarter turn, 180 is looking the opposite way as when you started, 275 is turning around about 3/4 of a circle, and then 360 is a full circle. I'm going to go ahead and save. Can't necessarily put much on this side because that would be colliding with what's on this side. Not too much in the back. Wonder if we could add a fence in the back. That'd probably make it a little complicated. Can do a fence later. So I'm going to bring the land back and scale this way down. A lot of this area he's not actually going to be running in, so if we just came to the top here, we could kind of make a decision of what the town's going to look like. Middle of the town usually has a square area with a fountain. That's not very square, was it? It's like a little fountain, maybe a statue. That's a little off-center, but it doesn't matter. Then you kind of could go this way with some roads. Have a little neighborhood here. So let's say I were to drag this over here. And then a small little park. See, I could just put a P in this to signify it's a park. Have some neighborhood area on the other side. And you know, these will be divided up a little bit, such that I can have one house facing that way, duplicate my house, rotate it 180 degrees, bring it this way a little bit. I don't have to match my lines exactly. Duplicate this. Put it on the other side there. And you know, if you start duplicating these houses around a whole lot, it'll lag up your scene a little bit, because each object has an origin point, meaning they each have an object data up here in the library. I learned this back when I was doing some Minecraft stuff, when I tried to actually duplicate every single block for the land. Things got extremely laggy for even the smallest portions. And so what you can do is, I'm going to leave this one by itself because I'm using it to duplicate with. And I'm going to take these three and just hit Control J and join them together, because they're not going anywhere and whatnot. And so I can take, actually, I'm going to move my original house over and then go ahead and join these together. Houses. Then this one ended up being a cube, so house. Take this, go into tab, hit A to select everything, duplicate it, move it over. Sure, why not? Duplicate it, move it over, duplicate it, Move it over. And one more. Now you have to be a little bit careful when doing something like this because the houses look exactly the same. You might go into edit mode and maybe like take a window off of one of them. The more you duplicate things, the more obvious it becomes that they are exactly the same. I could take this, no, I'll do it to this house here. And hit SX -1. Actually, that didn't select everything. That needs to include the door and this stuff out front. So SX -1. Now the door's on the other side. Kind of gives it a little bit more variation. There's a lot of choosing what is random and what is natural. Things like that. It depends on where you're looking. Might go in and say I take this building, grab some of the windows, Control L, and I'm just going to scale this building up along the Z-axis and then pull it up a bit. And I noticed that some of these houses are floating. They're actually floating a lot, all of them. That's good to know. It would be nice if I could see. I'm just going to select everything and try and bring it down. And it's only the areas that you feel are going to be seen that you should give the most work to, because if there's an area in the city where you won't exactly see if the house is floating or not, but you want to be able to see buildings off in the distance when you're up in a high area, you can kind of use that to choose what's important and what's not. I can't seem to deselect these boxes. I'm not sure what area I'm going to use or not right now. I kind of have an idea of what I want to do for the animation, but there's nothing too specific about it right now. I think all these buildings are pretty much good. Don't see too much floating now, though I am lagging. It's interesting how I don't lag in object mode, but in edit mode I really lag. And you know, if I didn't join those meshes together, I could have that same lag in object mode. So I think this is going well. Could maybe just put these over here too. Trying to keep organized here. And because I did that, some of them are going to be inside this little hill. And I feel bad because the second time around I don't care so much. I'm going to select everything, then go into my wireframe and deselect all of these houses, and then move these ones down a bit. There we go. I'm going to save. And you can kind of see that this is going to take some work. See, as far as making houses go, I should probably show you how to make another one. Just gonna leave the. See, can I choose where you can see that from? Or I can just turn it off and on like that for now. Shift C to get that back in the center. Let's make a tower this time. So I took a circle, going into edit mode, selecting vertices, going to my front view, going to extrude this up, about right there, and I'm going to hit Shift plus. That didn't do anything. Let's see, Control plus. Nope. There's. This is a function I haven't used in a while, but it does come in handy sometimes. So if I were to extrude this up along the z-axis, about one blender unit, and I hit Control R, it didn't do it. How embarrassing. Let's try this one more time. Extrude it along the Z, hit Alt R, and that spun it. Yep, I don't know what I'm doing. There is a button that is supposed to be something that every noob knows, that repeats your action. Thought for sure I knew how to do that. But anyway, it would have just made it quicker to equally continue what I was doing on the way up there. There it goes. It's Shift R. Look at that. So that was something I was just showing you for showing you's sake. You don't necessarily have to actually do that. I'm going to take these up, take these faces, extrude them out. Sure, why not? I was going to say I could alternate them, but that is not necessarily necessary. Extrude the tower up some more. Or what we could do is just duplicate this thing on the way up. Yeah, I should duplicate it first. If you really wanted to, you could find some images of buildings and kind of get a feel for what they look like, and be a lot more particular about how you want to model them. You can kind of tell that I don't want to give this that sort of time, and I've never really been very good at making buildings anyway. I guess that's probably because I never gave them all that much time and effort. But when it comes to making a big city, you really got to have a lot of time on your hands to want to do that. So I built a little tower there. Going to delete faces for a door. Actually, I'm going to duplicate them because I don't want them to see that the inside of this place is empty. It's all right there. Can make some windows. See, extrude that, bring it down a little bit. Take these and extrude it out. I'll let that be the window. And it's connected, that's perfect. Just waiting for it to do what I told it to. There we go. Going to duplicate this, Shift D. Now this should be interesting. If I hit period, I can't do like a, or I guess I could, but I can just rotate it from the center there. So let's do this. I'm going to hit Shift D, enter, period, rotate Z, and say 45. Shift D, enter, RZ, 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 and 45. So we now have a line of windows that I didn't color again. Isn't that dandy? So I'll go ahead and do that for the bottom, and I think I'll leave open windows on the top. Just 4 of them. So if by the odd chance that they do get a look inside of this building from the top, they shouldn't see much anyway. I'm going to take my vertices up here, grab this loop, extrude it, and hit comma to get that back. Shoot it about like that. Now we have a little tower. You can add like little flags sticking out. Now it's completely up to you how much you want to add to it. Do some coloring. Stone. It's not shiny. And you know, there is a great tutorial on YouTube somewhere. I think it's called like the correct way to texture in Blender. I'm not sure if it's animation friendly or if it's mostly meant for just pictures, so I'd be aware of that. He uses a couple different programs to actually make it so he can take a texture and have Blender identify what that texture actually is. So if it's a bunch of stones stacked in a wall or stacked together in pavement, he puts so much detail into these different programs and using them that Blender actually generates actual geometry for that mesh, so that it's actually no longer a texture but a physical thing. That actually looks good too, might I add. Like it'll be correctly colored and speckled, and the specularity will be good at certain angles and bad at different angles. Really neat little tool. Well, I wouldn't say a little tool. Just kind of working on the windows again. Wishing that I would learn to color first. And it's especially helpful that I didn't rotate it along the 90-degree angle, so that there's 8 of these instead of 4. It's a nice little touch too. And glass. That one can stay specular. Nope, I want the other one. Give me the other one. I want it so that if I hit Control L, or I'll just grab this and Control L. Take my brush selector and hold down the middle mouse button to deselect the wood frame. Just kind of go around those windows. And glass. So that means I have to pull this out a bit. Actually, Control L and pull it out a bit. Might smooth this in edit mode while that's selected. There we go. Switch to my normals over here so I can just pull it straight out. Grab these 4. Hit glass. Glass. Takes a while to make a city. Rome was not built in a day. I don't think you could build Rome in a day in Blender, and well, depending on how much detail you wanted to add to it. If you wanted to do basic blocky shapes, that is my original window that was not separated. If you wanted to do basic blocky shapes, maybe. But if you had to come in and add all the windows and the chairs and doors and streets and market vendors and bazaars and the seats in the Colosseum, how about that? That would take a little bit. No, that actually wouldn't. Yay! I'm gonna save. And go down to the door. Hit wood. How's that looking for a tower? Do I want to add a flag on it? I'll go ahead and add some flags. So let's say I take this vertex up, or this face up here, extrude it, scale it down, and let's get a material out for this. Black metal. So like a black iron kind of thing. Extrude this out like this. Maybe scale it down on the end. We can go in and put an edge loop. Go and grab this face on the bottom, extrude it a bit, scale it along the Y-X maybe? X? Okay, let's do this. Scale along the Y and Y again. That scaled it along the normal Y-axis rather than the global Y-axis. So I'm going to hit flag, take off the specularity, make it red. Somehow I see this as a red flag. That sounds a bit odd to say. Just bring it down. Maybe pull it back. And you have a flag. If you wanted, you could subdivide it and add some detail. Say I looked at this straight on, and I went something like something like that. Got some detail on it. Then if I wanted to, I could duplicate the flags around, and you know, I might. It's especially easy because I colored it this time. I'll just do 4 of these. Shift D, RZ90, Shift D, RZ90, Shift D, RZ90. Now we got some flags. I can move this back to our original layer with the houses. Open up the land and try and get an idea. Why am I hitting the Y? I meant just get my grease pencil back up. That appears when I am selecting these buildings for some reason. That's not helpful. The tower could be, I guess, just a little bit north of the square. So about here. Kinda wish... nah. So we're getting there. If you feel like you have this down pat and that you can model your own buildings, feel free. Buildings come in all sort of shapes and sizes, so I can't really sit here and tell you what they should all look like and have you model this city exactly like how I would. Put this one over here. I mean, if you want to watch me build a city, I don't know. Even I'm not really wanting to build a city. So I think the next step would be for me to kind of finish this city off camera, and then we can move into texturing some of the buildings. Speaking of texturing, why don't we get our camera out and actually let's put that layer away. So let's select everything, scale it down. It's having trouble with that. See, my camera selected too. I don't want that. So can we scale everything down? There we go. I'm doing this because I don't want to redo my lights to get this correct. Even then, it's still big. And if I were to put in our Assassin's Creed right now, he'd be tall enough to smash the buildings, but we can fix that. It probably would have been easier to just scale up the lights, wouldn't it? So I'm going to take my camera here, and I'm going to render the image and see what we're looking at so far. Pretty much exactly what we were looking at before. So, I'm going to move the camera inside some of the neighborhood area to get a closer look on what we'll actually be seeing in the video. It seems that if I hit some buttons really fast, these are some big streets. It seems that if I hit buttons really fast, it doesn't show up in that thing down there. The screencast keys. For the camera controls, to move it up and down like this, I'm rotating it along the normal X, which is pressing X twice. Then I would rotate along the Z, and if I want to move it forwards or backwards, I grab along the Z axis. And that's how I move that around. So I am surprised at how far apart these buildings are when you move up really close. I suppose the only things to do are to move them closer together. And you can see that my camera is pretty massive right now. I'm going to scale that down. Just scaling the camera doesn't really do anything. That's more like it. Actually, let's get a view of that tower off in the distance. And so, like I said, I'm probably just gonna finish this up, and then we can come back and do some texturing on the buildings and the ground and whatnot. And I will see you next time.